please welcome Cabel Sasser from Panic.
Thanks. Hello. Hi. All right. Thank you. Thanks. It's too much. It's too much. I can't handle this. As Andy mentioned, I usually do everything in my power to avoid public speaking, so I am thrilled and outraged to be up here right now. Like, do not feel great about it. But no, it's a total honor, and to be between these two guys who are also heroes of mine is amazing. So many of you might not know about Panic or who we are or what we do, so I'm gonna give you sort of the abbreviated history of our company. And I'm gonna start just with something I actually have never really shown anybody before, and this is what I would consider to be technically the first photo of Panic. Yes, please don't tell anyone about this. So this is myself, and this is my best friend and co-founder, Steve and Frank. And we used to make Amiga software for fun when we were kids. And this is Steve's bedroom somewhere out in Beaverton. And this is what we did. We hung out in his bedroom and made dumb demos and made software. And I also want to point out how awesome it is that I have a blue diskette in my pocket. I was a hit with the ladies, let me tell you. So that's really where Panic starts. And actually, when I dug this up, I also dug up this disk of an app that we had made called, I think, Disk, which is pretty awkward. Maybe it's Disk. And isn't it? We're still bad at naming, but I fired that thanks to the incredible people that make these emulators and can, retrieve old software. I fired this app up, and it didn't really do anything yet. It was mostly just an interface. But for any of you who know our software, this kind of surprised me because it was some foreshadowing of stuff that we would go on to do later, and I had no idea that we had already done it before. So the short story of the origin of our company is I went to college for a couple of years, and the internet kind of showed up and kind of blew my mind, and I left college and I came back to Portland, and I sat down with Steve, and he was an awesome programmer, and I kind of wasn't, but I had some design sense, and I said we should make software. And so we did. We got together and we found an apartment somewhere in Northwest. I found 2 pictures from our apartment days. I think I'm wearing pants in the picture on the right, but there's a bit that the boiler there's a chance I'm not. So this is Steve and I kind of in that first apartment and just kind of doing our own thing. And we started with the 3 things that you really need for a bedroom startup. We each put $250 in a checking account. We had absolutely no social life whatsoever. And we had a pretty good dustbuster because you're gonna spill stuff, You never know when that's gonna happen. And so, this is where we were, and this is where we built this app called Transmit, which was a FTP file transfer app. And the origin of that is basically just saying, this is something that we need to use every day to put files from one place to the other, and the tools that are there right now are not great, so let's make our own. And so we did, and we've done Transmit 2, and Transmit 3, and Transmit 4, and we're starting work on Transmit 5. And it's actually been, I think a couple weeks ago, this app is 15 years old, which is insane to me. So that's Transmit. I also enjoyed getting the occasional email from people who went crazy because it said your stuff and their stuff, and they'd be like, but the stuff on the server is also my stuff, and that's not fair, and you need to change that. And we never did, because we're stubborn. But we shipped this app, and it did well. Very, very slowly did well, I should say. I mean, it took us a really long time to get noticed, and it took us a really long time to get the word out, but people started to buy it gradually and gradually. And because people started to buy it, we were able to hire the first of a long string of super awesome people to work with us. But these things happened very slowly. It was more like, we need somebody to answer emails, let's hire a support guy. We need somebody, a year later, we need another engineer, let's hire an engineer. So it's been very, very, very gradual. We also made an MP3 player called Audion, which some people still fondly remember. I love that you guys remember that. Which almost became iTunes, which is a whole nother story and another talk. And then eventually, we were able to move into our first office, and this was sort of a picture of our first office, which was over in the Pearl District. We weren't exactly much more serious than we have been all along. And we made some other apps along the way, Statue, Candy Bar, Unison, testing out different things, trying different things, seeing what works and what doesn't. And that's always sort of been our mode of operation is just to, here's an idea for something that might be cool, let's give it a whirl and see how it goes. Now, Steve suggested, because we had a file transfer engine, that we could maybe combine it with a text editor and make an app for web developers. And that is Coda, which is also became very popular. Now, along the way, as Andy explained, there's a lot of other weird side adventures. We made t-shirts for our favorite video game, Katamari Damacy. This happened because we really liked the game. And we literally called up the company that made the game and had a meeting with the guy that makes the game. And fortunately, he is kind of weird, and he thought we were kind of weird. And so he's like, oh, sure, make shirts. And that was super awesome. I still see people wearing these shirts, and it's always cool to see that. We also commissioned this crazy artwork indulging in this weird fantasy as if the year was 1983 and we were in an office park in California and we made Atari video games, and this is a very real fantasy of mine. So that's probably why this happened. We all play Frisbee at lunch and wear like super short shorts, and we found a guy in town who could actually do this style of artwork that nobody does anymore. And so we made these awesome fake retro game boxes. We even printed up, each box came with a sheet of price stickers discounting the app over time with the idea that this was a massive failure for us. And actually it kind of was. Not many people cared about these boxes, but we also moved into our latest office, which some of you might have seen on Friday. If you did, thank you for coming. Thank you very much. This was a dream come true. It was kind of like an app too. It was like, if we sit down and what's the coolest thing that we can do for ourselves and make a space that we're proud of and that we like to go to every day. And so we had a lot of fun with it, and we made this crazy room. Our company also had a brief and very intense Twitter relationship with Carl's Jr., the chain of restaurants. I don't know how this happened, but if anybody wants a coupon for a Western bacon cheeseburger, I have just a shitload of these, so I'll just set them down here. You guys can help yourselves. I don't know. It's a really weird, long story. And then eventually, we made this app, the sequel to Coda, Coda 2. And that is actually what I would like to talk to you about today. Because of all the things I chose to talk about and not enjoying public speaking, I'm also going to talk about something fairly personal, which was how the development of this app got a little bit challenging for me. So what happened? OK, we had one of our normal status meetings, and I remember this was sort of later in Coda's development cycle. I remember leaving the status meeting and feeling this intense knot in my stomach, kind of like you're about to go on a school play or you're about to give a talk at XOXO. It was just this intense, gross feeling. And that hadn't really, I mean, I should point out that all that stuff that I just breezed past, all those years of stuff happening, it's weird for me to realize this, but it was pretty effortless. There weren't a lot of bumps along the road. And I don't know if we were just lucky or if I was long overdue for something, but it just kind of happened. We just sort of floated from thing to thing. It almost feels like magic. I don't know why we got lucky enough to go through that. But I had this pit in my stomach, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. But it was clear that something was going on, because I don't normally feel that way on a given day. And it just kept coming back, and I would just push it right back down. And then it would come right back, and I would just push it right back down. And then eventually, it just kept happening, and I realized that, oh my God, my brain is in demo mode. Like, my trial has expired, and something very bad is going on. And because this thing just keeps popping up, and it's totally unusual for me. So I went to lunch with Steve, thank God that he's around, and we went to a P.F. Chang's, which did not help the situation at all. And we sat down, and I kind of just explained to him how I'm feeling, and this is really weird, and I don't know what's happening, and we started to sort of break it apart. And I sort of started to think of it as a bug report, like filing a bug report on myself, that something is going on, and I don't know what's happening, and it's not right. Something's not right. So there were a lot of things that came out of those discussions, and I was glad to have those discussions. But I'm going to focus on two things to talk to you guys about today. One was unexpected pressure. The other was the ending not defined, not knowing the ending. And allow me to explain. So pressure. Pressure for Coda 2 came in many forms. The first was pressure from users, and that is our fault. The time between Coda 1 and Coda 2 was very long, 5, maybe 6 years. And our users don't know that we're working on other stuff during that time period. You know, we made a transmit update and all this other stuff. We're a small company with not a lot of people, and we still don't do everything at once. But the users don't know that, and I can't blame them, and they kind of assumed that this app was being worked on all the time, and they were getting really, really antsy. And that's a weird thing to it's not a complaint, but I mean, I'd rather have people be antsy for something we made than not care at all. But it became a running joke in the office that no matter what we did or posted or said on Twitter or anything, that the first reply would be, well, that's great, but what about Coda 2? And that was totally true, and the joke kind of started to get a little not funny for me after a while, because it really was like this intense feeling of we have got to deliver this thing. This is compounded by pressure from us. And that's because we want to make the best thing that we possibly can. I'm forever haunted, and I can see it in my mind, burned into my mind, the whiteboard from the first meeting we had about Coda 2. And I wrote in red pen, no giant rewrite, just a short, simple update, or whatever. And that is the exact opposite of what we did. We did this incredibly huge, ambitious update that changed almost everything. And that was because we knew that that's what we need to do to make the product better. But that is an intense thing to do. And the problem is when you change everything, then you start to get paranoid about the fact that you're disrupting your users' workflow. You're changing the way they work. You're changing what they're used to. This new toolbar that we think is pretty cool, maybe people are going to freak out. I began to lose self-confidence in the changes that we were making. Then it was pressure times 2 because we were working on 2 major apps at the same time. We were going to do Coda 2 and Diet Coda and ship them both at the same time. And that felt like this awesome Apple-esque, blowout announcement that no one would be expecting and would be an awesome surprise. But it also meant it was twice as stressful. And finally, for me, kind of an unexpected thing is just the pressure not to feel pressure. I'm the guy that has to sort of steer the ship and be the rock. And when you're that guy, you can't, I don't want to let it show that this is freaking me out. I don't want to, oh my God, guys, I can't be that. And so I sort of started to just work on myself. Like I would feel sort of stressed and be like, nope, I can't do that. And it was very, very, very difficult. So the other thing that was kind of difficult was I kind of got obsessed with what is the ending of our company. And this is weird, because it's been 15 years, and I'm no longer worried about if we're going to make it or not. It's pretty clear that it's worked out okay. And all of a sudden, for the first time ever, I started to think about, well, how does this end? It was almost like a corporate midlife crisis. I'd never thought about what is the end of our story? And I realized that there's basically 3 outcomes. There's selling out, which seems like the winning ending. You sell your company and you win. That's how you win at business. You make a thing and then you sell it to someone else. The problem with that is we have already passed up 3 opportunities selling out. And that was just sort of instinctual. We just sort of knew that those situations weren't necessarily going to be any better than the situation we have today, where we can make whatever we want and do whatever we want. And so selling out, it might happen, but it just didn't seem like that's going to be the end of our story. And if I can do a quick tangent on selling out, I don't necessarily think selling out is automatically bad. I think that there are times when it could work out, even though your chances, I think, are pretty infinitesimal. The one thing that has been bumming me out lately is seeing these original, creative people make amazing things. They go to market, and then they immediately get swallowed up by big companies to work on, rethinking the way the world thinks about pizza pockets or whatever. And they were this inspiring, cool voice, and they are instantly gone and never to be heard from again. And that just grinds my gears. It just seems, I want there to be more awesome individual voices that I'm inspired by in the computer world, not fewer and fewer more monolithic voices. And just, yeah. Yeah. And a tangent of adjusting my shirt and fixing my microphone. Hi there. Hello, everyone. This is better, like a lounge singer. As far as selling out goes, we had a conversation one time with a company that had sold out to a major company, and I was like, okay, I'll investigate this a little bit and see if maybe this is going to be worthwhile. And I called the guy up and I said, how has it been since you've been acquired? Has that been working out for you? And the first words out of his mouth were, well, here's what you need to do. If this happens, you need to get a VP or an SVP title, because that's the only way that you're going to get your projects through the pipeline. And you got to make sure to build your capital in the womp, 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 womp. Like I just I tuned out so instantly and quickly, and it was an incredibly useful phone call for me because it's everything that I was not interested in my life. But then there's the possibility that, other than selling out, we could flame out and have this incredible, awesome controversy that would be pretty cool and like be on Valleywag or whatever. But it's just not really who we are, and it doesn't really seem likely. But if it does happen, that's gotta be sweet. And the third option, which seems like the most likely option for our company, is to just gradually fade out. That one day, we will no longer do what we do today. And in the middle of all this stress and in the middle of all this pressure, this started to be a really hard thing for me to think about. I'll give you an example. If I see a sign like this in a store window, 60 years in business, closing, everything must go, my immediate reaction is, oh, they couldn't make it. Like, oh, what a bummer. They tried so hard to sell shoes and they couldn't pull it off. And I don't know why that feels like such a failure. This guy or girl or whoever who ran this stock photo shoe store, bear with me. They probably did this for 60 years. They presumably enjoyed it because they kept doing it. They didn't have to work for somebody else. They ran their own business. They ran their own show. Why does this feel so sad when this happens? Why is it so sad to see a company fade out instead of sell out? I still don't have the answer. Also, this is a weird slide. So every day when I jog home, I jog past this house, and it's kind of a late 80s, early 90s take on a Art Deco style. And at night, I noticed you can see in the windows, that's a little creepy, sorry, you can see in the windows, and the house is filled with Gardenburger memorabilia, like Gardenburger signs and posters and kind of old 80s Gardenburger. This one is, you can't see it at the top, but it's TGI Fridays congratulates Gardenburger on the 100th million Gardenburger sold. And this seems really sad to me too, and I don't know why. This is the house of the guy that started Gardenburger. And, he sold, which is funny, but there's something about me walking by this house every day and just seeing this, it felt like this museum of Gardenburger stuff. And I don't know, it just seems sad. And so I began to really grapple with this thing of, if we're not selling out and we're not flaming out and we are fading out, why is that a bummer? And so I'm going to talk about my low point. Well, I'm glad I did this. Jesus, why am I here? Okay, the low point. The low point was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful summer day, the best Oregon summer you can possibly imagine. And my wife and my kid are out in front of the house playing soccer or whatever. And I am in bed and I cannot get out of bed. And I'd never experienced that before. And I don't know where it came from. All I can figure is that I was worried that if I got out of bed, I would have to face all of these things that are just freaking me out. And so I just stayed in the covers, and I could hear the sounds of them playing out there. And my kid kept calling up for me to come outside and play. And I was so mad at myself because I know that there's gonna be a time in my life when he stops asking me to do that. So I was just frozen, and I just getting gradually more furious with myself. And I got out of the bed, and I went to the bathroom, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I had just a full-scale yelling at myself meltdown. Just, what is your problem? What are you doing? You're letting this take over your life. You're letting this control you. And I just got it all out of my system, which felt really good. One weird thing about that happening in the year 2013 is there's another voice in my mind that's watching this unfold and going, this is a pretty cliche meltdown scene. 1 star, meh. It was really bad. And it was really, really, really difficult. And the next day I went to work, and I sat down at my desk, and I looked up from my monitor at this incredible space that we had built that's just filled with these awesome people that are working so hard to make great stuff for us. And the situation could not be better. And I remember specifically saying to myself, and these are the actual words that I said to myself, Cabel, you are being a dillweed. And I don't know why the word dillweed. I don't say the word dillweed, and I don't know where it came from, but it freaked me out enough that I called myself a dillweed, and it just sort of nudged me a little bit, and I was totally being a dillweed. There's no doubt about it. And so, kind of with the word dillweed, the clouds started to part just a little, not quickly, not fast. This was not a fast process. The process was actually releasing the app, and the process was actually, doing bug fixes, and the process was meeting customers' needs and making sure that everything worked out okay and getting good feedback, and very, very, very slowly, everything went back to normal. But I think I had to hit that low point in order to get there, which is kind of a bummer deal. So do I have any answers for you about what I went through? As far as the pressure goes, I don't think there is an easy answer. I think once I was in that situation, it was too late. What's been done was done, and there was no way I was going to get out of it. The only thing that I could do was really think long and hard about how to not let this happen again in the future. And that's something we've been talking about a ton. And actually, that's been really helpful. And that means maybe hiring a few more people. So that's not just 2 people working on this incredibly difficult thing, or maybe sharing the load with management tasks so I don't have to keep track of it all in my brain, so that, it's not all on my shoulders, and all these little things that I think could hopefully prevent this from ever happening again, which I'm very focused on now. The other thing that was really nice is that Coda did really well, and that helped for sure. And as for the ending, this is interesting. So we've been doing job interviews for the past couple of weeks, and one of the candidates asked me, does Panic have a mission statement? And my first instinct was to make something up, because we don't. So I started to, try to be goofy, but I paused and I thought about it, and I said, we don't have a mission statement. All we have is this desire to make cool things that hopefully resonate with people, and do that for as long as we can. And fortunately, he thought that was a good answer, which I was happy about. There's no mission statement. We're just in this really lucky situation where we can both, take care of our existing customers and make great stuff for them, but experiment with weird things like Katamari shirts and boxes and stuff like that. And it began to dawn on me that we're very fortunate to be in that situation. I shouldn't take that for granted. And that maybe if you just keep busy in the middle, you don't start thinking so much about the end. And this is one of the reasons, if I can do a tangent, that last week we announced that we're funding a game studio called Campo Santo, which is started by these super smart guys that made the Walking Dead game, and Ollie Moss, this awesome artist, and we're sort of backing the whole thing. And that sort of came from that realization that we have to balance the current stuff with trying the weird new stuff, because that's where all the joy comes for us. And just as a tangent, Jake, one of the guys at Campo Santo, I know him because when he was in high school, he made skins for our Audion MP3 player that I showed you in the beginning. And we just kept in touch over the years. And how weird is it that life can weave these people in and out of your life, and you never know what's going to happen. So maybe it fades away, and maybe that's okay. I read a lot of Retro Gamer magazine because I'm a big nerd, and they always do these retrospectives of game companies in the 80s. And the same sentence kept showing up over and over and over again. And that was the sentence, "That was the best time of my life." And it started to sink in that maybe now is the best time of my life, that maybe this is the best time of my life. And maybe, it's not going to last forever, but maybe the only thing we need to do, the best thing we can do in our dumb, stupid, short lives is pack them full of so much, weirdness and ideas and crazy things that when we look at that wall of memories in our house or whatever, it's just filled to bursting with projects and plans and successes and failures and good ideas and bad ideas and things that were awesome and things that weren't awesome. And that when we look at that wall of stuff, we're not feeling sadness for what once was, but we're just overwhelmed with amazingness at what we did, at everything that we got to accomplish. And maybe that's what you have to do. And maybe that's how the Gardenburger guy feels. I don't know. It's possible. So maybe now is the best time of our lives. So I'm going to conclude in my little compressed speech format and give you some takeaways. I'm not going to say takeaway anymore. Number 1, you won't know the end until it ends. So let's fill the middle with as many weird plot twists as we can. Number 2, you have to take care of your customers and you have to take care of your fans, but you also have to take care of yourself. And number 3, don't waste this. Keep everyone guessing and make me proud. Thank you.